March 2006, Sandra and I were sitting down for dinner. And we're actually friends from college. And a few years after graduation, we found ourselves in the same city. So we're sitting down together, having some pizza and wine. And we're saying, we're excited because we're in our dream jobs, or we're kind of, in the area of work that we'd like to be doing, but we're only making about $30,000. So we're sitting there, and I said to Sandra, how do women do it? How do you pay down debt and still save and live in an expensive city and still have a life? How are people doing it?
And I remember saying to Angie, it was just that week, I was sitting, and this is right after school, I had decided, okay, I'm going to save money for a year. And I went back to live with my parents with the intention of saving a whole bucket of money. And I did. And I was so excited, and I wanted to learn, okay, how can I invest this in property, and how can I buy my very first home? And I remember sitting on the computer and just Googling and frantically searching for, I just wanted a first-time home buyer seminar. I wanted to know what that process was like, and I couldn't find any information that spoke to me that was in a way that I could relate to my life. And I remember saying to Ange, what is this disconnect?
Right.
Why is it that we're young, successful, and we're successful women in every areas of our life, but for some reason when it comes to personal finance, I felt like, and we felt like, there just wasn't anything that was speaking to us.
Yeah, we didn't want to talk about it either.
Yeah, so that night the kind of light bulb went off, and we said, well, let's research, let's figure out all this information, and then let's kind of relay it to other women. So what do two girls who have no idea about finance and money do, who have maxed out credit cards? We go to the bookstore and buy every single financial book on the shelf. And I remember the two of us going up to the counter and slapping our credit cards down to pay for these books.
And we're thinking, this is a really smart idea.
This is a good plan.
This is really going to work out well.
So then we take all of the books home, and we're sitting at the living room table across from each other, all the books spread out, and I looked at her and I said, this is great, but who is going to take us serious? Who will really take us serious?
Exactly. We were saying, we should start little seminars, and we'll get all girlfriends together, and we'll talk about money and ways to save. And Angie's like, that's great, but we got to get some certification. We got to go to school, and we got to get our accounting licenses and get our securities courses. And we kind of looked at each other and we thought, but maybe not. Maybe there's something to it to have your girlfriends talk to you about money like your girlfriend would. It's not your dad talking about money, it's not a banker talking to you about money, it's your girlfriends. And, taking it from a place of personal experience instead of someone just talking at you with what you should do with your money.
Who here has found themselves in a bookstore thinking this book is going to solve my complete financial crisis and get me straightened out? Raise your hand if you've been in that situation before.
Never.
I think even myself. And while these ladies here were spending hundreds of dollars on financial books, I was working in my dream job because I thought, I'm great, I got great hair, I got great clothes.
She was looking good.
I love my title, I'm rocking it. I was just, I was one of those women that walked down the street with purpose, and everybody knew it that passed
She
by.
owned it.
I owned it, and it's funny because Sandra, Katie and I worked together at the same company, and Sandra was new to the company, so she kind of walked in and she was like, starting off as a junior public relations manager.
Andrea Baxter. I was like,
yeah.
oh my gosh.
I remember you telling me about her.
I work with
the best
this girl.
clothes, best sunglasses, her hair is always done, her nails are always done. I was like, she sounds awesome.
She's so smart and she's so put together, and Andrea was my role model.
I was on the outside. But here's the really big sad thing about it was that I really was living a lie. I was one of those financial examples that my parents in the past had bailed me out, I'd say it at least 2 or 3 times financially. And I was, at the time, when I was working with Sandra, I was about $18,000 in debt. And to some people that doesn't sound like a lot. To others like myself, it was a burden, because here's what I had done. I had only had 2 credit cards that each had a credit limit of $5,000 on them. I'd maxed both of those out. I had a line of credit that was $8,000. I'd maxed that out as well. And the most uncomfortable thing I had done was my checking account, where all my paychecks got issued into, and where I actually took money out of, I was in constant overdraft. So if I got paid a paycheck, say $2,000, I basically only had about $400 left in my account because I was in that much overdraft. So I was in such a corner, and I couldn't sleep at night. I was anxiety driven, and none of this came by to Sandra, of course, because all she saw was this facade. Because when I walked into work, that's what I was all about, was business. And I would say my rock bottom, and we talk a lot about this in the Money Group, what is your real rock bottom that you hit where you felt, okay, something has got to give? Yeah. And I was on a business trip. I had to go to Denver for one night. It was the middle of January. Denver had snow. And typically with work expenses, you know, your company, you put it on your card and then they reimburse you sort of thing. I didn't have a credit card to use because they were maxed out. And so I had to lie to my boss and give him a reason or an excuse as to why I couldn't pay for this business trip right away. And so I lied to them as to why I couldn't pay for it. And I get to Denver, and here I am panicking because the room is on their card. I got one night at this hotel. It's a snowstorm in Denver, and I am freaking out going, what if I get snowed in? Because I'm not going to be able to stay at this hotel. I'm going to be sleeping in the airport. And that is when it really, and I think I had like $50 cash to my name for meals and stuff. Like, I could not use anything, and that was really where I hit my ultimate low. And it was really hard for me to accept that because I created this persona. I was a very professional businesswoman, but my finances were just fail, complete fail. So fast forward, I guess, I was home one day, working from home, my computer, and Oprah Winfrey was on in the background, and they were doing all about this episode all about America's debt diet. And I was like, oh, this is kind of curious, and I was kind of listening a bit. And so I went online to her site, and I just checked all the little tools that they had up there. You know, 30% should be going to this, and 25% should be going to that. Well, that didn't make any sense to me because I'm not a math person. And I was like, I'm just going to bring up a month's worth of expenses. I'm going to do what they're telling me to do. So I added it up, and I was stunned with the amount that I came up. Because I went around, I love my job, but I always went around going, I could make a little bit more. I could, you know, I think I should need to get a raise. Maybe people in my industry are making like 10, 20,000 more. But really what was happening when I added all these numbers up was that I was spending $1,500 more a month than I was making. So you add that up over the course of the year, and that is where I got into debt, serious debt. And that is when I had a little bit of a meltdown in my apartment all by myself. And I took a deep breath, and I went into work the next day, and I remember I saw Sandra and Katie, and we were just chatting, and I was like, so I just, I realized that I need to do something about my money situation here because I'm 28. I can't go to my parents anymore because that's just wrong. And I don't think they deserve to be put in that situation. So what do you think about maybe, I don't know, talking a little bit about this, getting together? We're women, we do good with conversation, and just, you know, we're good at chatting and stuff like that.
And you were so nervous.
I was so nervous because you had this perception of me.
Well, and it's the topic of money, it's still so taboo, and we, especially as women, don't talk about it. And so for Andrea to come up, and Katie and I were both, the light bulb went off, and we were like, yeah, no, that sounds like it'd be a fun thing to do. You know, we'll get together as a group instead of kind of like a book club, but we'll talk about money and our finances instead. And I called Ange, and Ange had never met Andrea or Katie at the time, and I said, Ange, these girls at work are doing what we were talking about doing, and this is awesome, and you've got to come and meet them, and you know, there's something to this.
Yeah, I had a little panic attack too, because in the same way, it's like you're coming to these strange people and really kind of exposing your financial picture. So, but we did, and we set up our first money group meeting. And that first night, it was a little overwhelming, but as Andrea mentioned, we all decided that we would just come clean, kind of expose our rock bottom moments and the issues that we were having. I went to the bakery to purchase something, a few treats and some essentials, and I swiped my card and it was insufficient funds. And if this has ever happened to you, it's just like the line was growing. I could feel my face like getting hot, and I was like, okay, can you just put back like the Danish, put back the, and she swiped it again, and it was just like, I got back into my car and I thought, this is crazy. Like, I'm out of control. I don't even know how much is in my own checking account, so I need support and I need help to get on track.
And one thing that we really did in the money group was that, you know, because we were disclosing such, you know, real personal financial information, the sense of just confidentiality was huge for us. It's like, whatever we're talking about in these four walls, it stays in these four walls. We don't talk about it with our friends.
Until now. We tell everyone.
But at the time, there was just such that shame, and we're like, you know, we want to respect each other's privacy. Of course, some of us were in relationships. We want to respect their partner's privacy. So that was a big key for us, as well as the accountability.
Exactly. And, you know, sitting in that first money group, and that's where I had my aha moment. And, you know, here's Andrea, who is this woman who I'm admiring and really modeling myself after in my career and in life. And she was so nervous when she revealed that she was almost $20,000 in debt. And in my head, so I had moved out of my parents' house at this point. I'd moved into an apartment on my own and been working at this new job for 2 months. And over the course of the previous year, I'd saved $8,000. And within 2 months, I had blown through the entire $8,000. and had gotten $2,000 in debt because I wanted to furnish my apartment, and I needed to make sure I had the right outfit at work because all the women around me also looked so
She's trying to look like me.
put together. I was, and it was this moment of, oh my gosh, what am I doing? And I thank Andrea so much for that moment and for being honest with me, because I would have been, God knows where I would have been now, $30,000 or more in debt, going down that line. And it was that honesty and that brutal, you know, leaving nothing on the table, and we got completely honest.
And it was funny because, like, I remember sitting in the circle. We were all sitting in there, and we were all just like, "Who's gonna make the first move?"
And Andrea went first, and we're like,
I was just like, "Fine, I guess, like, I'll do it." And the minute I said it, but after the group was over, it was just like this big sigh of relief. We felt like we were the bestest of friends, even though some of us hadn't met each other that night. And we're like, okay, the hardest part is over. Now we just have to take the steps and plan.
Well, and now let's do it.
Go.
And that very first meeting, and that's so important, is that we didn't leave that meeting saying, okay, we're going to pay off our debt, we're going to save money. It was, no, we're saving this much money, and this week, this is the one baby step we're each going to do to get us closer to our goal. So whether it was go home and get all of your documents in order, or go make an appointment with your bank this week so that you know exactly where your retirement fund is going. Each one of us left with a clearly defined, actionable step that we then checked in with the next week, and the next week, and the week after that.
So we worked together over the course of a year, and then, of course, we started following Oprah's debt diet, and then we worked to create a strategy for ourselves that kind of fit our lifestyle. In that year, a little over a year, we were able to pay down more than $50,000 of collective consumer debt that we had, save almost $40,000, and increase our salaries as a group, the 5 of us, by $90,000. And then we also really highlighted one of the best things that came out of the money group, which was women supporting women and kind of that sisterhood, and how amazing things can happen when women come together to do anything.
And, you know, we share this with you today not because we want to be bragging about how awesome our lives are and how great it is, but it actually is. We are here to brag and to celebrate. The point is that we all have opportunities, and we all have the opportunity to shine. So what we want, what we'd like you to take away today is, if you are prepared and you have a tangible way to tap into those opportunities and turn them into something to allow you to shine, we want you to be able to do that. So that's what we'd like to share with you today.
Yeah, so sort of basing on what Sandra said, this is sort of outlining what we're going to go over today. The big one, of course, is answering with a big why, like how can I do it again? Preparation meets opportunity, taking advantage of that, and succeeding in everything that we do, especially with our financial lives. Identity crisis, figuring out our identity crisis, and here's where we want to touch a little bit about our Smart Cookie brand and how we define that, and then we're going to talk a little bit about how you can then take it and really define what your personal brand is and how you can project that when you come into rooms like this and you're meeting people for the first time and you're networking. And then, of course, sweet steps to living the sweet life. We're all about living a good life, aren't we?
Yes.
We all want to live a really sweet life. So we're going to give you real tangible tools on how you can track and measure that, really simple ones, because it worked for us, and we're not going to go into crazy mathematical equations or talking a language that you don't understand because we didn't. So we're going to show you some really cool tips. And, of course, making more dough. This was really one of the funnest parts of the money group. It's like once we had all of our finances in order and we were paying down debt and putting money away, it's like, okay, now how do we make more money and how do we start saving more money?
The point is there's opportunity and there's things around us all the time that we don't see unless we're tapped into it. And that's the same thing with opportunities. Opportunities to save money, opportunities to make money, opportunities to meet someone who's going to change the course of your life forever. You know, we're all in a room today and we have opportunity around us today. So how can we tap into that opportunity and make sure that those opportunities find us as well? But the key is, when you are exposing yourselves to these opportunities, and we learned this very early on, is you don't just take every money-making opportunity and do everything all at once to try to save and make more money. Because you want to ask yourself, why? Why, at the end of the day, do I need the money in our lives? But why do you need that money? So it was really figuring out what was important to us in our lives, what kind of people do we want to surround ourselves with, what kind of work did we want to be doing, how did we want to feel at the end of the day? And then you work backwards to see, okay, how much money do you need in your life to make that life your reality? So we took this exercise, and it's been called the painted picture or your perfect day. We've taken bits of all sorts of exercises and created something of our own, and we want to share that with you today and walk you through it so that you can get a clear picture of what your filter is. One of the things that we did with our perfect days was create a vision board. Is anyone in the room familiar with a vision board or maybe has a vision board?